Welcome, everyone. I am Julianne Meyer, the host of Own Your Wellness, and I'm excited about today's guest today. Let me say that twice. Anyway, his name is Scott Friedman. I found him. I stalked him online, and I found him. And you guys are in for a treat because he comes from an interesting background, and he's done some interesting things. And he might not think so, but I do. So let's bring him onto the show. Scott, so glad to have you here today.
No, thanks for having me. This is exciting.
I mean, even your little title, Power of Progress. Oh my goodness. There's what is it? There's a saying in AA, and because I used to work in addiction recovery, so I've been to more meetings than your average alcoholic. And one of the sayings is progress, not perfection. And I've always loved that because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and it took me a long time to sort of get over that. So the power of progress, that just speaks to me. But anyway, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad the Power of Progress hit a note there.
It absolutely does. And I would love for you to, I know a little bit about you, but the audience doesn't. So I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself and how you got where you are.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, we only have 4 hours on this episode, so I'll kind of keep it brief. I think the journey of me started with, grew up in suburbs of Chicago. So nothing crazy there. And right around the time I was 14 or so, I started to realize I had a major fear, debilitating fear of gaining weight. I did not want to be overweight. I don't know why. It just kind of happened. And I was a skinny little, my dad used to call me Grover because I was a skinny little dude with lanky arms. But you could see, I had that skin muscle you can see because I had no muscle because I was 14. And I was like, I need to start figuring out how to stay in shape because as I'm eating more like crap, my body's adjusting. And now I'm getting old now at 15 or 14 and my metabolism's shutting down evidently. And not true. But that's the thinking, right? And so I'm like, I am terrified of getting out of shape. So I need to start taking it seriously. So I joined a couple sports teams. I joined track. I was a sprinter in high school. And I joined, and this one, everyone could probably guess. I'm in fitness right now, so you could probably guess I was a varsity bowler in high school. Yeah, I was I was a varsity bowler in high school. That was the way of me staying active a little bit. But I did some sports, and I was starting to stay active, started to lift weights. And right around, so I do it for a couple years, and my mom is pushing me to go to college. I'm going to college, but pushing me to become a physical therapist in college. So this is kind of the second part where that sounds great, right? You make a good amount of money out of college. It's a master's degree at the time. Now it's a doctorate level. And I'm like, oh, that sounds good. I'm interested in the human body. I want to work with people, and physical therapy sounds good. Yeah, sure. And maybe I'll stay in shape. I realized very quick that physical therapy is not for me. Number one, organic chemistry is the bane of my existence at the time. I got a D- and I couldn't do it. I was like, I don't care about any of this stuff. And I found out at the time that you actually could major in kinesiology, which was exercise science, which is coaching, personal training, and all that other stuff. I'm like, great, I'm going to switch, do that. And I found it to be very easy, ridiculously easy. I go, is this not things that people normally talk about? Is this not normal for everyone else? And I found myself at a very interesting dilemma because I was like, this is easy for me. So why do people even need a personal trainer? Why does anyone need any help with anything? And of course, that was obviously the case. I had no idea. I'm 19, 20, 21, and I'm like, I have no idea. And those are my two kind of big points to kind of what kind of molded me from there. It was a major fear of being out of shape. And I don't know where I still have that today. Not as bad, but I still have kind of that major weird fear. And then number two is I did not want to sit behind a desk all day and deal with, and not that it's a bad thing, but I didn't want to be on the rehabilitation side. I wanted to be on the preventative side. I wanted to work with people, be on my feet, walk around, move, talk to people, and kind of hopefully be that difference so they never have to deal with the physical therapist potentially, or at least live a higher quality and a better longevity for their life. And that was kind of my two main points kind of along the journey that kind of sculpted me to where I was getting now. I guess there's one other point down the road, which we'll probably get to later, which was I really hated the personal training industry. I got into it and I was like, this sucks for various reasons. One of which was I didn't like the sales aspect of it. Yeah. It was very sales oriented. It wasn't about necessarily helping people. It was about where does your next sale come from? next sale, get them to keep re-upping, thousands of PT sessions. And I didn't like that. I was like, this doesn't make sense, and there has to be another way to do this. And I think that was another point where I was like, I have to find a different way, because what I want people to do is grow and learn, and I wasn't doing that with the current positions that I had. So that's kind of how I started to shift and mold to kind of where I am right now.
That's fascinating. The thing that really sticks out to me is this fear of being out of shape, out of nowhere. I mean, I can understand if you're like surrounded by fatties, or, I mean, excuse my language, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It seems like it came out of nowhere, which is fascinating to me. But I do want to talk a little bit about like this fitness industry being like a personal trainer, because, I was one for a really long time. I still have a couple of clients left that, the reason why I still train them is because I made the commitment to them. I said, I will be committed to you as long as you're committed to yourself. And they've lasted. So I do have them. But that whole sales thing. To me, though, the thing that I always disliked about the personal training world is that there's so many people calling themselves personal trainers, and they don't even really know what they're doing. And they're causing injuries. I'm like watching people in the gym train other people. It's horrifying to me. Like, how are you getting paid to do, like, hurt this person?
Right. Yeah. Because it's definitely an unregulated industry. There's really two ways to be like certified, right? You have one, the certification, and there's a lot of kind of not great certifications out there that people can get for like $30 and do a weekend and be done, be certified. So it's not great. If you get like a top certification, there's like a top 5 you can get. Those are good. Those are solid. It'll take you a few months to actually pass, learn the knowledge, or you get a degree. And actually, the funny part is a degree isn't as valuable as a certification, which is shocking, because the amount of effort and studying you get in school is like tenfold better than just having a degree, having a certification. So, but yeah, I mean, if you work with a trainer, I would always ask for the degree. And if it's not one of the top 5, which I can list them out, but people, I mean, ACSM, NASM, ACE, NSCA, and like ISSA. If it's not like one of those, like maybe precision nutrition, but like, then it might be a little bit like, do I want to work with them? Is this the best person? Again, there's always questions. Obviously, people have their own experience and their own knowledge base. But you're right. Like, it's an unregulated industry, except for kind of I have a certification. That means I'm a personal trainer. And that's not really, I mean, it could be dangerous long term, especially if you're doing it the wrong way. Yeah.
Well, the other thing too, I mean, mine was from NASM. So, I'm one of the top 5.
Well, standard.
And it's all great that I can name muscles and, things like that. But that doesn't necessarily, like, what I really learned was when I was working in the gym under people and being trained properly, like proper movement, actual, hand to person working with them was really, so I understand what you mean about like having the certification versus going to school. I'm not saying that going to school and getting a degree is not worth it. I'm definitely not saying that, but it's a different type of knowledge. And so I understand what you mean when you say that, because it's just different, Yeah.
And I was fortunate. I went to school for kinesiology, and I had the certifications, and I have like a whole, all the names after your title. But like, I did find that like because I actually work for a corporate wellness company right now, just separately. And like when I hire people, like we don't even care about their degree. We care about their certification, and we care about just kind of like their experiences versus degree. But inherently, like those with the degree that happen to have a degree tend to be more knowledgeable and have more experience than those without one. But it's not a requirement. So it's one of those things you have to kind of mix and match and kind of figure it out.
So you are in the wellness industry full time, and you've been kind of evolved, and you're still evolving. I mean, because you're human. Don't we all do that? And I'm just curious, out of everything and all the iterations of who you've been and how you've shown up, what is one of the most shocking things that you've learned about wellness?
The most shocking thing I've learned about wellness is that when I was coming out of college, I was a hustle and grind kind of guy. I mean, I was president of my fraternity, went to college, I graduate, let's work out. Let's just hustle, work out, like no excuses, push. Why aren't you in shape? Just do it, right? And I think the most surprising thing, the thing I learned about wellness the most is that there is a secondary part that is really not taught, in my perspective, at least not taught well enough when you're getting a degree or even certifications. And it's the mindset aspect of things. It's that there is a whole population out there that is suffering from lack of results, and the hustle and grind mentality does not work for them for various reasons. And I believe one of the main reasons is that there are underlying conditions or obstacles in their way that need to be exposed. Not necessarily fixed, but at least exposed so that we can understand why we make decisions that we make. And I'm not talking about getting a psychology degree and going crazy and trauma and all that. I'm talking very front level stuff that's like, why are you not doing this? Because, for example, I would work with hundreds of people at any given time, and I could write them the best, perfect workout program ever. The best. I would never write a meal plan, but I would help them with the nutrition and give them the best potential possible plan they might want to work with at some point, ever, and they wouldn't do it. If you follow this plan, you will achieve all your goals, and yet they wouldn't do it. Why? Well, the answer has to be deeper than they don't want to do it. It's got to be what's holding them back. So I think the biggest thing I learned or surprised about was that there is a whole mental aspect of fitness that I took for granted because this came very naturally to me, and I had to learn that and that's kind of what sculpted me into more of a coaching field with mindset versus just a personal training field. So just understand that there is a mindset and there are obstacles that are going to prevent people from achieving their goals.
That is really, that was the one thing that I did not like about being a personal trainer, is besides the sales aspect, was that there is more to it. You can Google stuff, you can figure out, like, if I move more, if I lift, then you can get in shape technically. But how do you get to the gym? How do you actually make those changes? How do you stick with it? And the thing too that I think people don't realize is sometimes even when you do all of the right things, you're not necessarily going to get the best result because there's underlying things like, what about your stress level? Are you sleeping well? Are you getting enough water? There's so many different things that keep you from getting the absolute best result. That is not necessarily how you move your body or what you put in your mouth.
100%. I can't really say it much better than that. And I also think there's more intangible things that people struggle with because, it's easy to do something when you can see a tangible result. Like if you're going to invest in the stock market, you can see your money go up or down. Like it's very easy to see. When it comes to your fitness, it could take a bit to see a result. And even then you're like, well, is that really a result? Is that what I want? And so that intangibility of success also makes it difficult for people because then it's like, well, am I really doing what I have to do? And they don't account for what they looked like 6 months ago. It's like, oh, well, I wasn't like that. Now here's where I am. I'm not seeing any results, so I should quit. And it's a cycle. And it's a lot about breaking past habits, building new ones, creating perceptual shifts in people's lives. That really is where I find the most impact with people. I think that we overshoot, or just like, it's not the fitness aspect is actually significantly less important than we give it credit for. And I think if we can move more towards the mental aspect, the mindset aspect of things to create momentum that way, we would see people with a lot more results. And the proof is in the pudding. In the last 20 years, from 2000 until now, obesity has risen over 12% in the United States alone, like crazy. Chronic heart disease is what I believe it's 650,000 deaths per year, which is 1 in 4 people, which I think is the single highest reason people die in the United States. So, we are losing the fight, and yet it is easier than ever to get groceries with Instacart. You could order healthy things. It's easier than ever to get a coach, have a trainer. The equipment is more advanced than ever, and yet we're losing. We are literally losing the battle. Why is that? I think part of that reason is that we have not explored as a industry the mindset aspect of things.
No, absolutely. It's fascinating to me too. I was speaking to my business partner the other day, and he does a lot of copywriting and stuff because he's a consultant for other companies. And he was talking about how him and his other business partner for a different business created like this roadmap, like this total, like, if you do this, you will succeed. And he was like, the problem becomes, like bigger because it's like, oh my gosh, now I have the answers. What do I do? Like,
Yeah,
that
and
can be more crippling than anything else.
you can't blame anyone else. It's like almost terrifying that you could have the answer in your hand, because I think people almost fear like, well, what if I fail even with this, or what if I succeed? Now what? And I think people like, that's a whole other area of struggle that people, and I talk about that as well, but like that's a whole other area people struggle with too. Is like, oh my God, I actually have the answer. Start sweating, hyperventilating. I didn't realize I'd actually ever have the answer. I thought it was just going to be this perpetual thing, and now you have to actually make a change and actually do something, which is a whole other area that they weren't prepared for.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me how we're just as afraid of success as we are of failure. It's like, okay, what? And it really, for me, it comes down to the unknown, because we know what it's like to be where we are, and that somehow feels safe because we know it. Whereas what's going to come with this new body? What's going to come with this new way of being and living and all of that? So,
expectations, and do I have to continue this? I think one of the biggest things for people is like they want to lose 20 pounds. They don't realize that what they did to get there is not something they just stop doing once they get there. It has to become part of your life in some capacity. And now you have to do that. So they're almost afraid of, well, do I want to do this the rest of my life? The rest of my life is a long time. Like I love that I get to have all these different things, and you know, like so people have a tough time changing. And I think also the body hormonally plays a role in this. That the body doesn't like change. The body is there to preserve you and keep you safe. And the unknown is unsafe. Therefore, the body will fight you, and it will come up with the most amazing rationalizations you'll ever think of that you don't even realize you're thinking of until someone points it out. Like, you know, that's not right. Like, oh, crap. Oh, you don't have time? Look at your phone. How often are you on Facebook today?
I know, exactly.
But no, I think the unsafe thing is a real thing. The body signals that, and it's like, oh, no, we're not working out because this will lead to X, Y, Z, and down the line, the body's like, no, I don't want that. I want to be right here in my cocoon, and you have to force it. You have to force change on your body.
You really do. And it's fascinating too, how, you know, your neural pathways, they're just so used to being, you will actually release chemicals. Your brain will release chemicals into your body being like, hey, it's time for them Doritos, you know, come on.
Well, that's why we open the fridge. Like if you work from home, like I work from home a lot, and like I will literally just get up and open the cabinet during like a break because I'm so used to doing it. So people literally like they won't even be hungry, and they will just go to eat because that's what that's what they've been doing the last couple of weeks. And you build these habits, and your body will just send you signals. Yep, it's time to eat. I don't care if you're hungry or not. You're going to go eat because that's what you're supposed to do. And like your body will just literally release things to tell you to do certain things.
Yeah, it's fascinating too, because like for me, my Achilles heel, oh my gosh, it is television. So for me, it's so easy for me to just turn it on, and all of a sudden I'm like an hour later, 2 hours later, I'm still sitting there. I was only going to watch for 15 minutes.
That is 100%. I resonate with that. That's me. I mean, I'm like, oh, I got to record a few episodes. I got to plan coaching for this client. And I'm like, you know what? I'm exhausted. It's been a lot. I've been working for 10 hours today. I'm going to watch 30 minutes of, whatever the show is.
Yeah.
And, next thing I know, I'm like, well, they left it on a cliffhanger. I can't not watch the next episode. I mean, and also I might as well have some popcorn while I'm waiting because
exactly. It's
and I'm not kidding. Like, I legitimately do this. Like, and I have to work to not do it. So it's a real problem.
I can so relate to that. To me, it's kind of like to the point where I just can't. I mean, especially when it comes to food. For me, when somebody says, "Oh, it's just one bite," or "Oh, it's just." Sometimes it is, and that's fine. And if I can do that, then sure, absolutely. But there are trigger foods for me. There's no such thing as one bite. Like it is on and cracking. So for me, like with TV, if I turn it on, I should be aware that I'll probably be there for a long time. Or, like cheese for me, there's no such thing as like a little nugget. I'm going to eat that whole block, like guaranteed. There's no tasting when it comes to that.
And that's part of what I work on, right? Because like there's obviously something we have to address in the coaching program. It's like, hey, how do we maybe not necessarily get over that or get rid of that, but how do we at least avoid it, right? How do we avoid this situation so that like we can move forward, because those triggers are real things. And the best way to resist temptation is to avoid temptation.
Exactly.
If your trigger is cookies, then next time you go shopping, we're not going to be buying the cookies. Like there's little things, and that's part of kind of the breaking down of the obstacles mechanism that we do to figure out if there are triggers. Okay, what are they? How do we avoid these to the best of our ability to increase our chances of succeeding?
Exactly. No, I think that is such a wonderful, beautiful way to put that, because, what works for one person doesn't work for the next. So that's why coaching can be so invaluable, because you really get that personalized, like, hey, this works for me. I don't care if it worked for your friend Sally, like good on her, but you are not Sally. Does not mean that if you go do, yoga for 10 hours a day, like do you have 10 hours a day, first of all, to do that? It's different for everyone. But we do need to go to a commercial break. So, we'll be back in just a minute. And for those of you who are watching us live, thank you so much for being here. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation and go over some ideas about maybe how to work on our mindset, because that's what it's all about. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, my name is Julie Ann Meyer. I'm actually married now, so it is technically Macuris, but we haven't switched that over yet. So I will be Meyer for a while. Anyway, I am excited about today's guest, Scott Friedman. He's an amazing person who has a lot of knowledge, a lot of tips, tricks, and ways to improve the mindset. But before we get into all of that, I want to talk about your podcast, because that is what brought me to you in the first place. For those of you watching, like I mentioned, I do a little bit of stalking from time to time, and I saw his podcast and I thought, I think he'd be great on the show. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about that, how it came about, where all the deets.
All right. So it evolved over time, as everything does, and as we kind of learn and change our perspective. So I actually started with a different podcast. It was called Scott Speaks Fitness. terrible for SEO, but it's what I wanted to do. It was kind of a COVID passion project with the podcast, and it was basically all fitness and nutrition tips. I was just like every episode, tips. I think I did like 300 episodes. Eventually, I switched over to this one, The Power of Progress, which was mindset, motion, and momentum. And it still has the fitness and health lifestyle undertone, but it's less about what's the best program to do or what's the best diet, and more about how do we actually get you to get results with fitness. And it's more about taking your fitness from a chore to a lifestyle. And so I did 300 episodes on the first one. I'm currently at, I think it's like 320 or 30 on this one. And we're rocking and rolling with it.
That's amazing. And you can watch it on all the normal outlets, correct?
Yes. Spotify and Apple Podcasts, the main ones. If you like video, YouTube is another one where I post the interviews that I do, and I post a bunch of short content as well.
I like that a lot because, and first of all, the alliteration. So I always love a good alliteration. But, it really speaks to being a human being versus a human doing. And, you touched on that in the beginning a little bit about, what's going on up here that is affecting everything else. Why aren't you doing this? I just gave you like the perfect solution. So why aren't you? What's going on there? And like you said before, it's not necessarily about solving all the world's problems, but even just having enough you can address it when you see it.
Yeah. So part of the program that I do is there's a couple different aspects of this. One is an obstacle reduction method. Basically, we look at, okay, what are the rationalizations that you have or excuses or whatever. I'm not trying to be mean, but like, what is it that's stopping us, right? We try to identify. And I ask a lot of questions. Questions, why? That's inherently what I do because I need to get to the bottom of what's going on. And usually, most of the time, there's like two answers. One, and I used to say it was the fear of judgment, and I have now revised the fear of judgment to the fear of judgment publicly. No one cares, and I'll give you an example. No one cares when you fail by yourself and no one sees it, but you care a lot more when people can see you fail and they can make fun of you. For example, if you were to go to your garage and you were to try to do a pull-up and you fall, you can't do one and you fall off the bar and no one sees it, you're annoyed. Your tailbone hurts a little bit, but odds are it isn't that emotionally scarring for you. You just kind of shake it up and go, that sucks, might not do that again. Versus if you go to the gym and you try to do a pull-up and you fall and everyone sees you, no one's laughing, but like that, it's that embarrassment of tripping in public or falling or whatever it might be. It's the public shame that you are putting on yourself. So a lot of people are fearing the fear of judgment publicly, the fear of judgment that you're trying to change, the fear of judgment that people have you in this kind of who you're supposed to be and you're trying to break out of that, and that's judgment there. The fear that you won't fit in anymore, and things like that because you're being judged a different way. So the fear of judgment is very powerful. And I think that really does cause a lot of people to take a step back and go, do I really want to do this? I know, like, you can take any industry and it's like, okay, I'm about to be judged here. Can I handle the judgment? And people really take that and they hide it as different things. I don't have time. I don't have energy. I don't have money. And the reality is you could break down every one of those arguments pretty easily, for the most part, not always, but for the most part, into some sort of fear of judgment. Also the fear of not being enough is a pretty big one as well. They don't feel that they deserve it, or they don't feel that they are worthy to achieve the specific goal. It's not as much as the fear of judgment. That's another one. And then the fear of failure, inherently, I think is kind of an umbrella term, but the people don't like failing. We don't like failing. We don't want to fail, and we will avoid failing because it's just not a good feeling. And I think people associate failure with being ostracized in society. It's if you fail, you no longer have your tribe of people, your tribe will leave you. And one of our biggest things is being in, we want to have camaraderie. We want to have people around us. We want to have friends. And all these fears are things that hold us back from doing what we want because we want to be part of the group. And doing something that's not part of the group might get us kicked out of the group, and therefore we might be alone, or we might not have friends or family, whatever. And so I think those three fears are some of the larger ones that I normally see once we break down the rationalizations. And for example, just to give everyone an example, everyone's like, "Oh, I don't have money." Let's take it. I stole this example from someone, a guy named Alex. So if he ever sees it, I
love him.
Man,
Go.
everyone knows who he is huge. And basically said, like, it's not a money issue, it's a value issue. If
Mhm.
someone says, oh, I don't have the money to pay for personal training, let's say it's $1,200, right? Whatever it is. It's okay. Can't pay it. But if I were to offer you, if I had a $200,000 Ferrari or truck or whatever, and I said, I will give you this truck for $10,000, fairly confident every single person listening to this would find a way to get me the $10,000 because the value is there. I just made 20x on my money on the value of the car that I could sell for way more money. So you're able to find the $10,000. Okay. So the idea of that, it's not about the money. It's about the value proposition sometimes is not there. You can find money when the value is there. So it's not about the money. It's about the value. That same person can spend 10,000 on a car, but they can't spend 1,200 on personal training, and because the value is totally different inherently. So that's just one way to kind of break down the notion of like, oh, I can't afford it. Now, again, not everyone, but just the vast majority. So that's kind of the breaking down method of, okay, how do we break down these excuses? What's going on? What are you seeing? How do we do this? Concurrently, on the other side is how do we build you up? How do we get you going in the right direction? So we have to do the same time. We have to break down the barriers, the mental thoughts, the fears, and how to overwork those fears. And at the same time, we have to build up your goals. How do we build up your goals? And I usually have a 3-pronged method. Part one is goal setting. We got to set goals, which I know is boring. It's not sexy. It's not fun. It's not special. It's not secret. We have to goal set. And, that means SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely, whatever acronym you use is what we'll use. And really get it down, because saying I want to lose weight, saying I want to have more energy, I want to have this is not enough. You need to be specific. According to Forbes, like a couple of years ago, they said the number one reason people failed at their health goal related New Year's resolution goal is they were not specific enough. And that was the number one reason they came up with it. So being specific with your goal is very, very important. Once you have your goal, the next, and I think this is like the step, like this is so important, and I use this every single day, is your reason why. What is your reason why? Why do you want to lose 40 pounds? Why do you want to do this? Whatever your goal is, right? And we'll use 40 pounds as the avatar for whatever your goal is.
Yeah.
Get out a piece of paper, get out, a notepad or something, and write down as many as you can think of it. Fill up the whole page of goals. And it doesn't matter what the reason, reason why. Fill out the page of reason whys. It doesn't matter what your reason why is, as long as it's important to you, as long as it creates an emotional attachment to you. If you're a girl who was like, I want to have a bikini body, great. It might sound vain to everyone else, but it's important to you. And it doesn't matter why it's important. It is important. Write it all down. Make it visible. Read it every day. We go into kind of the nuts and bolts of how that works later, but that does create an internal support system that is extraordinarily valuable later on in the process. And then number 3 is baby step goals. What are the smallest action items I can take from where I'm at right now, and what's the next step in the process? I want to work out. Okay. Have you ever been to a gym? No. Okay. Let's research gyms to go to. Okay. Next step. Let's find out the best pricing. Next step, buy the membership. Next step, get your clothes ready. And you go baby steps to get them. Now, obviously, if you're already going to the gym, then we meet you where you're at. But that's the idea. But what's the next step? Most people are reading a 20 chapter book, and they want to go to chapter 12 when they should be at chapter 1. And this creates a lot of issues because you haven't built the foundation of the story in order to get the results for chapter 12 yet. You need to get to start with chapter 1 and go through. It sucks. It's obnoxious, but you need to build your foundation and your knowledge base and your experience base in order to see long-term results that lead to a higher quality of life. And that's kind of the process. We break down the obstacles and build up the goal. We try to do it concurrently as best as possible.
I love that. Real quick, because I want to put up, I want people to be able to reach out to you and figure out how to work with you in particular. But I do want to say something that I feel compelled to say, and that is like, because you brought up going to the gym, for example. I thought I was not a gym person. And this is coming from a personal trainer. Like, I didn't think I was a gym person. The reason why is because I was going to these big box gyms that I did not like. I didn't feel comfortable there. I just felt like, in a rat race. I mean, it was like, who's looking at me kind of a place. I found a gym that was tiny and it was a community, and I loved going there. It would take me almost 30 minutes to drive there, and I would do it. I would literally, I mean, and that's how much I really enjoyed that gym. So don't stop just because you're like, oh, I've tried that. It's not for me. Maybe that one isn't, but there could be something else that is.
Yeah, it's always like I tried that once and I can't ever do it again. It's like, well, you tried it once on this day at this time on this year, but you haven't tried it right now at this day, this time this year. Exactly. And the result might be different. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to do lift weights, or everyone has to do whatever, but like there is something for you. And I do, I agree. Like if you're at a bad gym and you don't like going there, like switch, like 100%. Like that can make or break your whole experience.
Yeah, that could totally make or break your entire experience. And so like, just don't think, oh, I've tried. It's kind of like if you hate broccoli, you might actually hate broccoli, but if you've only tried it one time, one way, and it was overcooked, then you're definitely not going to like it. So, but anyway, so what does it look like to work with you? Because we've been talking a little bit about, your coaching style, but I put up your website here for everybody so that they can see it. What kind of opportunities are there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm about what you see is what you get. I'm not this refined, sales guy. I'm open, I'm honest. I want to get the results. And my mission is to not work with you again. Like what I don't like is the buy a month worth of, buy 12 months, buy 6, whatever it is, just keep buying packages to feed. My whole goal is, I want the person to be self-sustainable. So I want to increase their knowledge base, increase their experience, increase their confidence so they can do this on their own. And I give them the tools to do that. So am I going to be there for the absolute final step? Most likely not. But I know the final step is going to get there if you follow the method, because at some point you got to be sustainable on your own. I talk about this, and this is the exact reason why diets suck, is that like once you're done with the diet and you're done with the protocol, you lose all the results. I don't want that. I want you to have all the results. So number one is everyone, I love giving out free, like 30-minute, I call them power calls because you need a cool name. And 30-minute power calls to like, let's strategize. Where are you at right now? What are you looking for? What have you tried? What's your experience? And how do we get you from point A to point B? If I feel like it's a good fit and I actually can help you, then, obviously there is a chance to work together. It's not required, but there is a chance to work together. And my most used program is an 8-week program. And basically, it's like an all-inclusive. It's 8 weeks. You get as much of my time as you want. We set up weekly, twice a week, 3 times a week calls, whatever it is, whatever is required to get the result, to go over it. And we work on everything, whether that's program design, nutrition design. We work on your mindset development to figure out okay, I give you this, but you're not doing it. Why aren't you doing it? We go through everything I talked about before, setting up your goals, the whole system. And then we go through, okay, how do you learn things? One thing that people find shocking when they work with me, and I'm unapologetic about it, is most coaches you'll see and they pride themselves on this, and I'm like, okay, cool, is they have a database of exercises. I go, that's great to have. I don't do that. I will literally show you how to look it up on YouTube. YouTube has billions of videos that you can look up, and if you're going to be good at fitness, learning how to research, and research is relative, learning how to look things up online quickly to get quick answers and knowing reliable sources is crucial to success. So I teach you how to do that too. And I'm like, you want to know how to bench press? Let's look up how to bench press online. I mean, I know how I can teach you, but like, it's better like if you're able to do it on your own. That way you're not just stuck with the 30 minutes or an hour with me. You can do it and then start to learn. My whole goal is to get you to think critically, get you to start learning, because it's not that hard once you get going, once you build momentum. So that's kind of what it is like working with me. It's very just like right now is how I literally will talk to you. This could be a coaching call. And we go through your goals, go through this, as much time as needed. That's the most popular. And there's other levels of coaching. It's, there's 3 versions, right? You have the, I will drive the car for you and get you there and show you everything. There's the, I will ride shotgun, or I will ride in the back seat.
Yeah.
And there's a fourth option where I will push the car, but like, I'll get it going. But those are the options. And each one, you get all the same things, just a matter of how much time you want to spend with me. And that's kind of how I do it. And the goal is after, let's say 8 weeks, that there may be a follow-up, but like you are relatively self-sufficient. If you want to tune up later, there's tune-up programs after that. But like my goal is that I can talk to you in 6 months, say, hey, you should have lost all this weight. What happened? And like, I'm following up with you. Like, okay, did you follow all, we talk about it and all those things, but it's not like, okay, 8 weeks and then another 8 weeks and then another 8 weeks. And then It's like, I want to work with you once, maybe twice, and be done, because I want you to be the master of your own health. And that's kind of what it's like working with me.
I really like that, because I think people should be as self-sufficient as possible.
Yes.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't want to work with you more than that, but I don't want to have to.
Yes. I don't want to have to is the key word, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't want to have to.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. Like, what would you rather do? Would you rather go to the doctor every single time you have a cough or stuff, or would you like to learn, okay, I can use these 5 medicines, I can do these 10 things every time I'm sick, versus having to pay and to go to the doctor and spend all your time? No, you want to learn I got this, this, and this. It's probably this. I can just use and I'll be fine, right? Baseline knowledge to get you through the day. I mean, honestly, you could say the same thing with your car. Would you rather know how to change your windshield wipers, change your Freon, start your car with the engine or with the battery, or every time something little goes wrong, you take it in and charge all this extra money in perpetuity, or take the few minutes to learn the steps? I kind of like compare it to that, where it's like, would you rather have to go to a trainer the rest of your life? Which, by the way, I'm not against it by any means. If that is what you need for accountability, go for it. I still have personal training clients that I have committed to, and they will not work out without me. And like, that's fine. That's what we've committed to together. And that's totally a fine thing. But like, overall, is that what you're looking for? Or are you looking to have that confidence in the gym, have the knowledge base, and feel confident that you're going in there understanding what you're trying to do and you know how to do it?
Now, I love that distinction too, because like, as a personal trainer, former personal trainer, I guess I still am currently, I have a personal trainer. And the reason why is because of the accountability. Yeah. And I enjoy that one-on-one. I like not having to think about what my workout's going to look like. They do it all for me. I just show up, I do my thing, and I leave. And that's what works for me. But it's not like I can't do it on my own. And if I have to, then I can. But I'm with you, though. I want to know how to do it.
Yeah. And it's not for everyone, and I don't work with everyone. And actually, I don't even have a lot of clients at the same time. I'm very particular, because I want to make sure I can devote as much time as I possibly can to them so they get the most value out of it. So I'm not someone who's going to have 10 clients at one time. I'm going to have like 3. And I don't have a lot, because I spend a lot of time developing what we're doing and going over and talking and texting and all these different things. And so versus if you go to a box gym, how many clients do you think that personal trainer has? And I'm not casting aspersions purposely. It's just like, that is the industry, and that's what's required for them to make a living and them to make money. And it's not required for me. And so I'm using the advantage I have in that perspective to really, focus in and hone in on one person at a time.
I love that. On that note, we do need to go to our second commercial break. When we come back, we're just going to continue the conversation. And, mindset is such a huge topic that we're just going to dig a little bit deeper. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, which you're going to want to watch this on replay anyway, I've got Scott Friedman here with me today. Let's bring him back onto the show. Welcome back, sir. So happy to have you here. By the way, your energy is so much fun. And if you bring even half of that to your clients, I so appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
So, we were talking about originally, I kind of want to take it back just a little bit. I was thinking about your podcast and I was thinking, actually, let's pop this back up for a moment. How it originally started out with like the nuts and the bolts, and then now it's turned into mindset, motion, and momentum. And momentum is probably one of my all-time favorite words when it comes to wellness, because it, like you were saying before about the little wins, you start to gain that momentum and it makes it so much easier to make another good choice for yourself because you get on a roll.
Yeah. I mean, so momentum for me is two analogies that I use. One is the snowball effect. Basically, is snowballs rolling down the mountain and eventually it picks up all the snow and becomes the avalanche or the big snowball. Like, that's momentum in a nutshell. But the other thing I really have started to use more of is momentum is actually social proof. Because a lot of the reasons we don't have momentum is because we don't believe that what we're doing is working. But if you can start stacking wins, right, then you can look back and say, wow, let's say every day you have one win and it's been 10 days. Now I have 10 wins. They might be small wins, but they're wins. And now you're starting to create social proof for yourself mentally that, okay, I can do this. And that inherently creates that snowball effect down the hill of, okay, I can do this, then this. Like, oh, I'll try this, try that. And then eventually it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's kind of how I view momentum, is just baby steps as, you build it over time.
I like that. It is true, because especially when it comes to when you're trying to change like your physical appearance, it doesn't happen overnight. So there's got to be something in order to keep you going. Back to my business partner, he says he's got a lot of like gems, jewels, like words of wisdom that I really like. And one of the things that kept me going when I first decided to get healthy, I was like 30% body fat. I was always really small, but compact fat. Like I was a tofu, thin on the outside, fat on the inside. And I didn't look that big, but I really was rotund. And, I just went like full on. I hired a trainer and he gave me some nutrition tips. I did exactly what he told me to do. And it worked. First of all, it totally worked. But the thing is everybody thought I was crazy. Everyone. And so what my business partner says, which I really appreciate, is everybody thinks you're crazy until you succeed. So you can either stop and be crazy, or you can keep going, and then they're going to ask you how you did it.
100%. 100%. Yeah, and there's no history of anything until it happens, right? So everyone thinks you're crazy. And people think you're crazy because you're stepping outside the box of who they think you should be. Yeah. And that threatens them, because then they look at you and say, oh, that's what I could have been. And so then they're like, so that's why they're putting, so anyone who like is against you for getting in shape or doing something new is, for the most part, I feel like it's their own insecurities projected onto you, because they realize that they could have been that person achieving that goal and they're not. And you're a constant reminder of them not doing it.
Exactly. And you're showing them it's possible. They're literally seeing you change, and here they are not doing anything different. It's that fear, it rears its ugly head and it shows up in so many different ways. But for somebody that, is maybe not really taking their health seriously, somebody that, has kind of just fallen prey to the easy, and I say it's the easy way out. It's really not ultimately, but the quick dopamine hit, whether it's social media, whether it's TV, whether it's sugar, whether it's whatever the case may be. For somebody who is interested in learning more about what might work for them, where would you send them to take a look?
Besides me, no.
Well, that's actually good.
So I think there's okay. So just to give an umbrella term here, because I know we're running out of time, there's two ways to learn something in my mind. One is time equity and one is equity, money equity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Time equity is basically you're going to take a lot of time to learn something, and then but you're not going to spend a lot of money. And then the
Mm-hmm.
opposite is true. If you know, let's say you want to spend a lot of money, it'll take a lot less time. That's what coaches are for, right? So the idea is if you get a coach, they will do it in half or a tenth of the time that it would take you doing it on your own. And so you have to kind of pick and choose what works best for you. I'm a big time guy, like myself. I love to try something. Eventually, the money becomes worth it. I'm like, at first, I'm like $1,000. I'll do it myself. A month later, I'm like, $1,000 sounds great. How much do I send that money to get my time back? Because I don't want to spend all this time. Where would I have people go? That's a very tough answer because there's so much out there. Like it depends on kind of the specifics, but like healthline.com is a relatively good website for general health stuff. I actually do like bodybuilding.com because they do have a lot of general knowledge on there. None of these sites should be taken as the gospel because fitness and your body is an evolving science. Every day there's something new. So, I mean, if you were to type in whatever your goal is, like how to lose 40 pounds, like you look at the top sites, I would actually go to a lot of them and see what they say and, take off the outliers. What is everyone saying? Like, what are the consistent things that people say? And that's some of the things I would do. Like healthline.com is a good one. You could do something like a Mayo Clinic, which sometimes can be good or bad. Bodybuilding.com's not, I actually kind of like them a lot. There's another one, I think it's like Titan. Athlete X, I actually am a big fan of Athlete X. He's a physical therapist on YouTube, really super famous. And I like a lot of his stuff. I think he's very knowledgeable. But those are a couple things. But there's hundreds of other ones out there, even thousands that are really good. And it's all about, okay, let's try to implement what this person says, try it a little bit, and then see. Or you take 5 websites, figure, okay, like I read this one in 5 minutes, read this one in 5 minutes, read this one. They all kind of have this same underlying thing in there. I'm going to try these underlying messages. If you know any experts in the field, that's another great way to do it. That might be a good episode for me though, to put together a list of websites that I'd like. And I might actually, because I'm not prepared to give out specific sites, but that's actually a really good idea. A podcast I'm going to just promote on here, and I shouldn't do it, but the Wits and Weights podcast. I work with him. I worked with the owner or the host of the podcast. Phenomenal nutrition and fitness background. I mean, he just knows everything. So I love his science-based stuff. But that's what I would just start Googling, and go to sites and see what the commonalities are, because that's what the truth is. So for example, this is a little touchy here, but like if you listen to CNN, all right, you're going to hear different things than when you listen to Fox or MSNBC or all the major news networks. But if you can kind of sort through the edges and get to the nutrients of what they're saying, then you can figure out what the truth is. Because everyone has their slants, everyone has their way of talking about it. But generally speaking, we can kind of get to if you can kind of pick them all apart and get to the truth, that's kind of how it works with like the influencer guru field of like, oh, you have to wake up every morning and do your 40-minute meditation routine, and then you have to have your sunlight and then do this. Then someone else says, well, no, do this. And then someone else says that. But all of it has an iota of truth. The question is, where are you in your journey? And then which can you actually start doing? Try it out and see if it makes sense for you. And if it doesn't, move on. If it does, keep doing it, because there's so many different things that work for different people in the fitness field that there is no one right answer. Some people will say, don't do a diet. I'm one of those. And some will say you have to do a diet, The reason that's true is because you'll have half the people who love keto and half the people who hate keto. Well, the truth has to be, well, what do you mean? Well, some say it doesn't work, some say it does work. Well, the reality is that both have to be true then, right? And the reality is that it doesn't work for you because it's not good for, like, you personally can't do it, and it's good for them because they love it, And so what's the truth? The truth is that, can you sustain it long term? Yes, it might be good for you. Can you sustain it long term? No. Probably shouldn't do it. And so fitness is like that, where there's a lot of different answers to a lot of different things. Even when it comes to workout plans, everyone has a unique workout plan. Try it out, see if it works, which I know sucks as an answer. And unless you get a specific coach, you won't have a direct path, but that's the time for it. So if you're going to research, you're going to spend time looking at things. You're going to spend time researching, looking things up, figuring it out yourself, and trial and error. Or you can skip the line. And then, we have to spend money in order to get past all of that thousands of articles and videos of knowledge you have to learn into one person and use their method. Exactly. And that's kind of that's kind of the cost benefit. So that's kind of my answer to it, is like, it sucks because like if you do it on your own, even I get confused. I'm like, wait a second. I thought this was bad for us. Right? And I'm like, wait, this guy's saying, I'm like, oh, and so then I had to look, I'm like, I thought this was bad. And then I look it up, I go, well, actually, but that's the cost benefit analysis of doing it on your own versus doing it with a coach. And so you have to figure out, would you rather spend time or rather spend money? And if you spend time, you have to do trial and error on a lot of different places. Yeah. And I will come up with a website list for one of my next episodes to come out with for like that information.
I love that. Yeah. Well, Scott, that is all the time that we have for today. I just wanted to pop up your website one more time for those who didn't get it before, because I am all for both things, but ultimately I would rather just have somebody help me that I trust. So let's just skip the bull crap and go right to the source and then work with somebody. As far as I'm concerned, that's the best way to go. But I'm also one that will go and like do all the research too. So I get it. But I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. And everyone, that is all the time that we have for today. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next Thursday. Until then, enjoy your week.